Turn the music down. Turn the music down.
Turn the music down. Turn the music down. 2 repetitions with 0 warmth. This is how authority speaks when it has forgotten how to listen. What you're about to hear isn't just about a murder case. It's about the psychology of institutions under existential threat and how the threat transforms ordinary people into architects of silence. This is Truth and Neurons, and I'm Ruby G. Today we're going deep into the neuroscience of power, the terror management theory behind institutional secrecy, and why the hardest evidence to find is often hiding in plain psychological sight.
I'm just going.
Okay. Well, understand that you're responsible for the residents. Okay. So whoever else is here, if they have a safe way to get home, you need to kick them out. Okay. Or tell them to come inside and be quiet. Okay. Because the houses that are on this hill all the way around here, we can hear you from clear down the road when we were coming up here. We can hear the music. Okay. And that's...
I'm so sorry.
We're past the point of having polite conversations, okay? Because neighbors are being kept up.
Let's start with what the body cam footage actually reveals. Not about noise violations, but about the officer's internal state. The officer is not calm. He's compensating for feeling uncalm by projecting dominance. When he says, "We're past the point of polite conversation," what he's really communicating is, "I need you to submit so I can feel in control again." This isn't conscious malice, it's emotional regulation through hierarchy. The officer perceives these students not as individuals, but as threats to social order. And in small town policing, social order isn't just policy, it's identity.
Megan, I have her information. I have her cell phone number too.
Call her.
Okay.
Hello, miss.
Hello.
What's your name?
Xana.
Xana, do you live here?
Yes.
Okay, did Megan talk to you earlier?
No.
Okay, does Megan live here?
Megan, I do not have a Megan that lives
Megan
here.
Mogan?
Maddie Mogan, yes.
Madison Mogan, yeah.
Madison Mogan? Okay, she does live here?
Sorry, she is at the club. She's 21. I'm just going to bed. I have a couple friends over, but this is my ID.
Have you talked to Maddie tonight?
Yes, I have. Oh. She's at the corner club.
Okay. Did she tell you anything about anything that happened earlier or anything like that?
Honestly, not really. I've just been here the past hour.
Okay.
Just trying to go to bed.
Can I grab your ID for me?
I'm not 21.
Okay.
My roommates are 21.
Now here's where it gets psychologically fascinating. The officer doesn't remember the resident's name. Megan, Mogan. The police have visited this house multiple times, but the name doesn't stick. Why? This could be because remembering a name requires individuation, the cognitive process of seeing someone as a unique human being. And individuation is incompatible with enforcement mode. To enforce efficiency, you can't afford to see people. You see categories: compliant, non-compliant, cooperative. This is dehumanization at the neurological level, not as hatred, but as cognitive efficiency. The brain conserves resources by clustering people into schemas rather than processing them as complex individuals. It's the same mechanism that allows soldiers to fire at enemies. And Officer Payne is an ex-military man. It also allows surgeons to cut into bodies. And yes, police to escalate encounters that don't need escalation. The uniform doesn't just identify the officer, it disidentifies the citizen. Fast forward to the murders. 4 students dead, national media descending, the entire department under a microscope they never trained for. This is where terror management theory becomes essential to understanding what happened next. When morality salience increases, meaning that literal death reminds us we're mortal, we cling harder to structures that give life meaning. For Moscow PD, that structure is institutional infallibility. And to maintain that illusion, they must control the narrative, even if it means strangling transparency in the process. For police departments, their reason for existing, their whole purpose, legitimacy. It's a belief that they're good at their job, that communities need them, and that they're on the right side of justice. When that legitimacy gets questioned, when people criticise them, investigate them, or suggest they might have massively screwed up, it triggers a deep primal fear. Now here's where it gets complicated, because there are actually two different psychological patterns at play. Pattern 1, institutional embarrassment. Some departments hide things simply because they look incompetent. Maybe they contaminated evidence. Maybe they missed obvious leads. Maybe they were just a small town force way out of their depth. There's no conspiracy, just human error that they don't want exposed. This is defensive bolstering. Protecting their reputation, not covering up crimes. Protecting their reputation, not covering up crimes. Then we have the second pattern, protective concealment. Protective concealment, the secrecy is darker. They're not just hiding mistakes. They're hiding connections. Maybe certain officers had relationships with suspects. Maybe the university pressured them to handle things quietly. Maybe powerful people need protecting. Maybe there's a liability they can't afford to expose. This isn't just embarrassment, it's active cover-up. This isn't just embarrassment, it's active cover-up. The confusing part, from the outside, both patterns look identical. Both involve excessive redactions, expensive records fees, thousands of dollars in editing fees, evidence release, moves from soon to phases like under review, public record requests, bureaucratic stone walls, endless delays, vague justifications, institutional defensiveness. The psychology is different, but the behaviour is the same. So in pattern 1, they're thinking, we can't let people see how badly we fumbled this. In pattern 2, they're thinking, we can't let people see what we're protecting or who. So when people sense something's off about Moscow PD's behaviour, they're not wrong. Something is off. The question is it the cover-up of incompetence or the cover-up of complicity? Something definitely stinks. And the tragic irony is the more they hide, the more that it looks like pattern 2, even if it is just pattern 1. And at this stage, I personally believe we're looking at pattern 2, because secrecy breeds suspicion always. When Bryan Kohberger entered that plea deal, the legal narrative shifted, but so did the psychological one. For prosecutors, it was a guaranteed outcome without the risk of jury nullification. For the families, it was supposed to be closure without revealing trauma in open court. But for the institutions involved, including the police and prosecution, it was relief from exposure. No trial means no cross-examination of investigative methods, no expert witness dissecting chain of custody, no defence attorneys highlighting every procedural ambiguity. From a psychological standpoint, the plea deal functioned as an institutional defence mechanism, what Freud called repression, the unconscious burying of threatening material. But repression doesn't eliminate anxiety, it displaces it. And where does that anxiety go? It goes into the slow, bureaucratic strangulation of public records access. Judge Hippler's phased release of evidence isn't judicial prejudice, it's psychological pacing. By trickling information over months, the system diffuses collective attention. Outrage fatigue sets in. Media moves on. By the time the full record emerges, redacted, sanitised, contextualised into irrelevance, the hope is that nobody's watching anymore. This is strategic ambiguity as a coping mechanism. Keep everything vague enough, slow enough, complicated enough, and you never have to face a singular moment of reckoning. The anxiety is managed not by confronting it, but by distributing it across time until it dilutes into the background noise. If you think about it, it's psychologically brilliant, but it's democratically catastrophic. The institution feels its freedom is being threatened. The freedom to control its image, its narrative, its reputation. So it reasserts control through economic barriers. This strategy exploits a cognitive bias called the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to abandon pursuits that become too expensive even if we've already invested resources. Most journalists, most citizens, most content creators will look at a $5,000 quote for a body cam file and say, not worth it. The information technically remains accessible. The illusion of transparency holds. But functionally, it's been privatized, available only to those with institutional resources. This is a kind of structural violence, harm created not by direct action, but by the architecture of the system itself. No one's explicitly censoring, no one is burning files. They're just making truth expensive. And in a capitalist framework, expensive equals inaccessible for most. The result? A two-tiered information system where accountability is a luxury good. That's not democracy. And the psychology behind this is simple. If we can't prevent scrutiny, we can price it out of reach. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most officers in situations like this aren't psychopaths. They're not sadists. They're not even necessarily authoritarians by temperament. They're ordinary people caught in a system that rewards moral disengagement, the psychological process of deactivating ethical self-regulation. The more authority someone has, the easier moral disengagement becomes, because authority provides built-in justifications, rules, procedures, chain of command. The officer on the body cam wasn't necessarily being cruel. He was being authoritative, which his training rewards. The department charging fees isn't being necessarily vindictive. They're being thorough. They're acting in a way that the policy allows. The judge delaying releases isn't necessarily obstructing. He's being careful, which sounds judicial. Each actor can morally disengage because the system provides the anesthetic. Nobody has to feel like the bad guy when everyone's just following the rules. That's how institutional evil happens. Not necessarily through malice, but through the steady accumulation of small ethical compromises, each one individually defensible, collectively catastrophic. So when we heard Officer Payne's command to turn down the music, we need to recognize that the real sound we should be listening for is a sound that's not there. The body cam footage not released, the evidence not disclosed, the questions not answered. And until institutions understand that transparency isn't weakness, but inoculation, protection against the very mistrust they're trying to avoid, the architecture of silence will keep standing. And remember, the most important information is information someone doesn't want you to hear. That's all for today's episode of Truth and Neurons. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the ethics of media commentary in high-profile cases. Until next time, keep thinking critically and questioning everything. Cheers, bye.